Kia ora. I'm sure you've generated a few questions. I'll make a comment to start with. I wish you were sitting beside me with this presentation when we went to the Local Government Commission, because we wanted to mirror Ngāti Kahungunu. We felt that's what the Regional Council should be, right down the East Coast, and align our aspirations and align the issues that we face on the coast as far as the environment and water quality, etc. goes. It doesn't stop at the southern boundary of Hawke's Bay Regional Council. It goes further south. Anyway, enough of that. Any questions? I thank you for a fantastic presentation. So I'm sure you've stirred a couple of folk up here, hopefully. Rex. Councillor Graham.
Two questions, thanks. I think I got it right, you're going to draw down 5 mil for the Marais. I don't know how you're going to do that with your Marais, but any dealing with Marais, will you be including the 2 urban Marais? That's my first question.
No is the answer. This is a settlement between the people who lost land and the people who they lost land to. So theoretically, the 2 urban marae are not local marae. They are what you call community marae or mātāwaka marae. They are run by people who are not necessarily Ngāti Kahungunu. I have no doubt that these groups will benefit, but as part of a pointed campaign of developing those marae, the answer is no. In fact, those marae have got partners that see them being very well developed, and they're some of the best running and wealthiest marae in the area. So our business is with local marae, many of them out in the sticks, without adequate water, without good governance skills.
Okay, thanks for clarification on that. My other question is, with the PSGE and the elections, how are you going to conduct those elections? Is that right across Hiratonga Tamatea, or is that by marae or by hapu? How do you conduct that?
There's a robust process set down in the trust deed. So there's a trust deed that sits behind the post-settlement governance entity, and we will call for nominations in relation to each marae, and it's an open, transparent process. So nominations put their names forward, they have to whakapapa to each of the marae to be eligible, and then there's a vote. So it's quite a robust, transparent process.
Second question to that. So you could hypothetically get more than 1 or more than 2 from one marae. So it's the best. It's the highest profile.
We'll call for nominations for each seat, and then each member that's on the register has to nominate which marae they want to vote under. So they will vote for that particular marae. One vote per person. That's creating controversy at the moment, but that's the rule. 1 vote per person, so by marae. And the PSGE will conduct the voting process.
Thank you. Just, Councillor Graham, can you get your microphone a bit closer next time? It doesn't record, apparently. I've just got a little note here. Councillor Pike.
Kia ora. Thank you very much for your presentation. Very good. We're going into some very exciting times, not only for Māori in this area, but also for everybody, really, the whole community. I just wanted to ask you what you see as the challenges that you're going to be facing going into this new era.
I think that the challenges are to be outward looking, knowing that we've got a lot of work to do inwardly. So, to build up a robust framework for the Heretaunga and Tamatea peoples to once again become visible in this area. Somebody could show up from Japan, drive through Hawke's Bay and not know there were any Māoris here. And it's a bit sad, really. So visibility is really important. And being able to work on that side of things, but being able to see the big picture. is one of our big challenges. I'm, some people may be thinking that one of our challenges is working together as Māori. Actually, I don't see that as a challenge. I think that we have, that we are certainly as a group working extremely well together. Our relationship with Nikki is good. We don't always say the same thing or think the same thing, or not always on the same agenda, but the relationship is good, and I don't think we have a problem there. I think that it will be a challenge for us to be able to get up to, I think this is about called getting up to speed, if you like, to sit at bodies like this. We don't have, for instance, classically the regional, sitting at the Regional Planning Committee. What we feel we need is some major support behind the Māori members of those committees, of that committee, which is presently not provided for in the bill, so that we have an opinion, if you like, or a stance that is evidence-based. And we don't have that expertise at the moment, but there are certainly a few challenges.
What about the public perception, though, as with regards to the wider community? Do you have any plans as to how you're going to deal with that and how you're going to get that information out there to people?
Well, I think breaking down some of the stereotypes is really important. And we're fortunate, because the settlement's so large, that we think that journey can be a positive one. I mean, it is about demonstrating that our people can add value, that we have something to add value to this wider community. The history is something to be proud of. Even though things happen, there's a history that we can all be proud of, and we'll be getting some of that out there, building up the capacity of each of the marae to offer what they can. I mean, for example, Pakipaki, we're talking about sustainable businesses. Pakipaki's got 3 beautifully carved marae there in walking distance with each other. They can do something with that in terms of development enterprise or something. We are looking at making a major distribution to each of the marae. So that's what sits under the decentralisation, is to break down codependency on a large iwi organisation, centralised organisation. So the plan is to break down the codependency and create a sense of self-reliance and independence in each marae. So each marae will get a major distribution. There's obviously some steps and planning and things that need to be in place for that to happen. But it is about building up their own self-esteem, self-belief, self-worth, that we have something to offer to the community. And this is happening all over the country. We're just taking a lead on it, and we're in a position to. But at the same time, encouraging our own people to have a better perception of themselves, as well as demonstrating that there is some value there in the history and in the way forward. Exciting times ahead. Exciting times ahead.
Kia ora. Councillor Bevan.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for your presentation, David. It was really interesting and informative. As I'm sure you're aware, we've already formed a regional planning committee, and we're looking forward to working closely with all of the large natural groupings that you've talked about. I've got 2 questions. One, I'm just looking for a bit more clarity about what you said about Cape kidnappers, that you're handing it back. Who are you handing it back to? What's the process here that you were
What we
referring
did
to?
there, what we did there is ask the Crown, negotiated for the Crown to give it back, so that it sits, in terms of ownership, sits with Heretoga Tamatea. But we know that that's a national icon and certainly a regional icon. So the vesting will happen. The Crown there will be a transfer of the title to Toa Takitini, and then we will gift it back to the Crown so that it is in Crown hands, because that recognises the iconic status of it. If we didn't offer that gifting back, I doubt very much that the Crown would have
put it on the table.
put it on the table. So it was just about being magnanimous,
Right.
but also respectful that the mana needed to sit with our people for a short time. So Ngāi Tahu did that with Mount Cook, and I think it's still up for debate in Taranaki, but that was our gift to the
Right.
to
So
the
that's a good
nation.
outcome. My second question related to, you talked about the 5 rivers, and obviously the rivers are quite a focus for our attention as well. Do you have priorities in terms of which river your attention should be focused on, or priorities in terms of what should happen?
I think that we don't have priorities around which river should be focused on, because as you move through our rohe, everybody is interested in their own river. What our interest is in being able to work somewhere to develop a framework that looks after water in Hawke's Bay. We certainly don't profess to be experts in that area, nor do we have huge amounts of scientific backing behind us, but and you've heard this before, we say that we bring a different point of view. I mean, the most important part about the rivers and the most practical way that Māori communities think about their waterways is, can we eat from them and can we drink from them? And that's something that hasn't changed in 150 years. And so, if there were a measurement that said how healthy these rivers were, it would be how big the eels were, and what colour the flounder were over at Kohupātiki, and those sorts of things. So it's about working in a general way toward having rivers that that live up to New Zealand's international marketing of 100% pure.
And if I may, I think that sort of decision is a decision that we would make in collaboration with yourselves. I mean, I think we're really clear that the settlement is not in isolation from what's happening at the moment. It's our intention's not to slow down anything. It's about working with the council in a cooperative way and making those decisions. But I will put a plug in, Mā Tauranga Māori, that was a big feature of the Waikato River settlement. I think there's a lot of information in that area that could be of value to the council and to all our people as well. It's finding that balance, and I think we'll do that by just developing our relationship, and we're not clear how that's going to develop. It'll be done by discussion, I expect. But exciting times ahead. The vote starts on Saturday for the ratification process. That's a big milestone for our people. We're definitely moving.
And lastly, just for perfect clarity around Cape Kidnappers, that doesn't include the golf course. It only includes the Gannet Sanctuary and the Scenic Reserve, so small areas of land, but nevertheless important parts for Hawke's Bay's marketing.
So we had one more, there was a hand up down here, was it Councillor B? Oh, microphone, please.
Peter, thank you very much. Can I just go a little step further on that, the aspects of regional aspirations? Mm-hmm. We talked about rivers and that you're saying there will need to be a collaborative arrangement in terms of the management of the rivers and water quality, which of course the basic rules are set within the Regional Plan Committee, so you're there on the ground floor in that regard. But you refer here to joint management arrangements. Can you be specific as to what's involved there?
At the moment, we know that that's a mechanism that's available under the Resource Management Act, and we would like to talk with the council around that in relation to the rivers. And it's a discussion. We have no firm view. We just know that tool is there, and what we agreed with the government is that we would explore, the government and ourselves would explore the possibility of that option with each of the councils in our rohe. We have negotiated statutory acknowledgements in relation to each of the rivers, and what that means is that we need to come to an agreement around the process for managing those rivers, our engagement, a consultation process, if you like, which is why we put the last slide up there in relation to the treaty. Can you just flip back to that, David? At the moment, the way the councils across the nation engage with iwi in relation to consultation on any matter, it's usually done under the Article 3 mechanism. So Māori are treated like a special interest group under Article 3. What the settlement does is require engagement under Article 2. So we recognise that everybody needs to be consulted under the legislation. We're saying the consultation required for iwi is under Article 2, and it might mean a slight change in the process. We're not being radical or anything like that. We're quite reasonable people. We're just pointing out the difference. So if there's a difference, the process needs to reflect the difference, that it's not an Article 3 engagement, it's an Article 2 type engagement. But, what a joint management agreement might look like. There are examples around the Waikato River framework at the moment. We've looked at all of those. I was part of the Crown team negotiating that settlement for the Crown. They don't look frightening. It's just about locking down clear processes so everybody knows how we need to engage on certain issues, and in this case it's the rivers for us.
Kia ora. I'm going to draw this to a close. Yeah, thank you, Councillor Graham, seconder. I'll put the motion and then Mr Mohi will end this part. You'd like to have a comment? Yeah, sure.
Firstly, thanks for the presentation. It was really good. I just want to take a couple of points. David, your point about it's a bit sad that a Japanese can wander through Hawke's Bay, I absolutely agree with that. And I think that one of the little interesting things, the pose in the middle of Hastings just changed our town. I often drive past there, every day I go there, and past there, and it's had a huge effect on Hastings. Great. Which is sort of named after some obscure Indian general who none of us know. And I hope your treaty claims dealing with some of those issues as well. But it did have an effect, and hopefully, as we go forward, you can continue to have that kind of effect on our community, so that we do know that 30% of our population around Hastings is Māori.
Kia ora, thank you.
Councillor Scott.
Liz, David and Peter, that was an extremely interesting and stunning presentation, and thank you very much for it. Glad you've ended up with that slide there, because I puzzled over it wondering what the Great Wall of China that was dividing us was, and I realised it was actually our cycleway linking us all instead. And you've put down some challenges in what you've actually said today, and I think in your words, David, you'll be back to council to talk about some of these issues, and Liz, you've picked up on that, and it is a challenge to us, and we really look forward to it. I really welcome the move that we've gone. I want to wish you all the best with your negotiations.
Thank you.
And I think this is very exciting, and I think your presentation today has really been exciting for us. So
thank you.
Thank you very much, and all the best.
I'll put the motion in. All those in favour, please say aye. Contrary, no. Carried. And
ko tēnei te mihi whakamutinga ki au koutou mo te tino marama o tō koutou kaupapa. Engari, i te ata nei, I asked the councillors to consider the submissions from the Māori Committee, which were about, in part, supporting us financially and bringing us up to speed. in terms of a scholarship, and indeed the Regional Planning Committee. We are aware that because they only meet 4 times a year, they struggle when they come along here to come with some really good take. And I encouraged them this morning. In fact, I wish you were here to back me up. But I understand that during Smoko, talking to one or two of the more open-minded councillors, that there's going to be 5 or 6 senior managers within a very short time, which is we only wanted 2. So very generous of them. And I also encouraged them this morning to attend a treaty workshop. You're probably aware of Robert Constantine, the Irishman from Christchurch, who yesterday I was telling my Māori committee, when his father got off the wharf 60 or 70 years ago, he asked who the government of the day was. And the wharfie said, oh, well, I don't really know. And he says, well, it doesn't matter because I'm against him anyway. But just in terms of the river, especially Tukituki and Waipawa, you're aware that the Tai Whenua or Tamatea has first hit, as it were, of an $8 million mitigation package. Now, given that in Tamatea Tai Whenua there's 2 quite elderly gentlemen, and I'm one of those, we're just wondering that, perhaps if the Tamatea Tai Whenua morphs into something under your jurisdiction rather than given our so-called age and probably lack of support for the Tamatea Tai Whenua because of its spreading out and the lack of our population. Do you think that would be possible, that He Toa Takitini would pick up that mantle on Tamatea's behalf? And just finally, Councillor Pipe brought it up about public perception. I think, with this type of presentation, it puts the general Tauiri population at ease rather than thinking there's a whole lot of Māoris coming on, they're going to arm themselves with taiaha and chase them down to the beach and into the sea.
And on that very positive note, I'll draw it to a close. So thank you very much, everyone, and been very enlightening. Thank you.